My name is Jessica Crow. I'm the founder of Apogee and the host of Change Leader Insights. And I am so excited because I have two amazing humans here with me today, Tracey Lovejoy and Shannon Lucas. They are the founders of Catalyst Constellations and the authors of Move Fast, Break Shit, and Burn Out. And I love the fact that we are here today. I've actually had a chance to meet with Shannon in person. We're both in Colorado, so that's pretty fun. Tracey, I wish that we have met in person, but I'm so excited for today's conversation and just to talk about all of the things that we've had a chance to talk about offline, but now bring them forward so the community of listeners, Change Leader Insights, can really hear all the important, impactful things that you have shared in your book and that you have, you're going to be talking about today. So before we begin, actually, Tracey, what's your origin story? Let's just start there. We'll both share a little bit about yourselves, and then we'll get into why you wrote the book, and then we'll talk about Catalyst.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having us today, Jessica.
Yeah.
My origin story. So I am a researcher through and through. You can take a girl out of research, but you're really always a researcher. So I was in graduate school and I moved directly into technology. Once I was there, the hum of that environment really fit with my body, which was an early indicator of what I do today.
Yeah.
So I started as an individual researcher, and I was an ethnographer and anthropologist. And so I got to go out in the world and really study people. Once I became a people manager within the company, I saw that same love of studying people applied just as much to the person in front of me that I got to manage, and even more of a passion because you saw that you could really impact people's lives directly that way versus kind of that diffuse product development type of research. That led me to take a class in leadership and coaching, executive coaching. And I was thinking of it as a way to support being a better leader, which it obviously did. It's an amazing way to learn to lead better. But it also was really disruptive because it was very much a calling for me. And so I spent several more years within Microsoft wondering, is this going to be something I do within a corporate environment? What am I going to do? And finally, I made that hard decision, which I know you made, I think back in 2019, to leave and start my own consulting agency. Once I did that, I didn't know who I wanted to serve. And so I had my own coach. It took me quite a bit of time to figure out and kind of think about different populations. And what I realized is that hum that I loved when I sat in technology, the way that I had always been, which was like, duh, don't you see this huge opportunity space? Shouldn't we dive in and go do this thing? But I always felt like I didn't quite know how to bring people along. I was always a little bit slapped for being disruptive, even in the environment where they wanted you to be innovative. And so what I said was, let me look at those folks. And so I started doing really structured research to understand these people that Shannon and I today call catalysts.
Yeah.
At the time when I started the research in 2015, there was very little on the shelves that you could pull and just learn about them. There was all kinds of processes around innovation, but there weren't the people that were the sparks of innovation that you could read about. And so one of the people that I interviewed was already a client of mine in my executive coaching. And I said, hey, we've been working together a while, but you fit this profile of my absolute ideal client that I'm taking the time to understand better. Can I interview you? And not shockingly, that person at that time was Shannon Lucas.
I'm still Shannon Lucas.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
That hasn't changed. That hasn't changed. Just the relationship and where you have taken everything that you've learned and done together. That is so wonderful too, how the narrative of where you started and where you are now. And yeah, Shannon, tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you kind of got to where you are today.
I'm going to start in the middle of the story. Why did I hire an executive coach? I was leading innovation at Vodafone, which is one of the world's largest mobile telephony companies. And we were building out this innovation program, testing the hypothesis of, can we find the natural positive troublemakers around the globe, connect them, create a shared language and culture, stop reinventing the wheel, give them the tools and training to support them and sort of accelerate impact. I was about 3 years into building out this global program when I was really starting to burn out.
Yeah.
And the Innovation Champion Program was the name that we gave the thing at the time. And we were wildly successful. So we had line of sight to, tens of millions of in-year revenue impact, hundreds of millions of pipeline. We had completely changed the face of the customer of who we were talking to, from IT and procurement to like the C-suite. Like all of the success metrics of an innovation program were there, but I could always see more that could be done. And so I was flying around the world troubleshooting, like, there's this group of about 30% of these innovation champions. It's a volunteer population who are showing up like I would, like just positively disruptive, and I'm having to move fast to clear the path in front of them. But I was spending most of my time trying to activate the other 70%. I was like, I don't understand. I'd make the application harder. We had more rewards and recognition. Like we had everything at our disposal because we were so successful. The executives loved us. And so I was burning out. My college roommate was like, well, why don't you get an exec coach? I was like, I have nothing to lose. And so I got connected through the universe to Tracey Lovejoy. And so when she sat me down and had this conversation about like, well, happily, I was towards the end of her research. So she was able to share some pretty significant findings at that time.
Yeah.
And I remember like where I was sitting and the weather when she shared it to me, because it was one of those pivotal life moments where it's like, oh my God, this describes me so perfectly. I can see it going all the way back to starting the recycling program in high school, becoming senior class president in college, all of the things. But importantly, I was like, this exactly describes the problem that I'm trying to troubleshoot. That 30%, they're all change agents, but the 30% are the catalysts. And I was like, those are the people that I really want to help. Doesn't mean we're great at change. Doesn't mean that we don't cause, that we come across as arrogant or cause friction. It just means I never had to incentivize them to do something, which goes back to our book. And by the way, I had this executive community that I had sort of handpicked from around the world. I was like, this is really hard. Let's learn from each other. Let's laugh with each other and cry with each other. And I said to Tracey, I said, this same thing is playing out there. And by the way, I was going to do a retreat to help with the burnout of this particular executive group. And I said, do you want to do that with me? And that became the birth of our company.
Oh, wow. I love that so much. And then from there, both of you, I mean, you collaborated and wrote a book. So from all of the insights, learning experience, when we talked, it's a love letter to Catalyst. Tell us a little bit more about, the book, what's included, and then maybe we even start with, how do you define Catalyst? I mean, you've explained a little bit through your own biographies and stories, but how would you define what it means to be a catalyst, and how this book and your wisdom that you've shared and it really can speak to and help people who are maybe feeling and are in the same shoes that both of you have been in?
The short answer to the definition is folks that are the change makers with this unstoppable drive to create action. They're brimming with ideas and they need to make the world better. That word need is so critical, right? We've all known visionaries, but it's not just the visionary, it's the visionary plus the action that really makes a catalyst unique. From the research perspective, there are 5 key attributes plus a 6th thing that sit behind who we are as catalysts. And I'll be very curious to ask you in a second, Jessica, do you think you're a catalyst? So that's coming up next. So
okay.
we piece together information really quickly. And so we can have those moments sitting in a meeting where we're like, that's insanely obvious. And then you feel a little crazy when people around you didn't kind of see the same thing. And so that information that we're pulling in comes together in just so many ideas and possibilities to make the world around us better. And we are inherently creating visions of this is what the destination will look like when we make the shift toward it. That just feels like breathing to us. And yet that's not how most people operate in the world. Then often before we've articulated that vision, we're tripping into action to make that a reality. And so that's number 4. And then number 5 is once we're in motion, we have this experimentation mindset where we are iterating and learning as we move. And so that may mean the vision itself is shifting as you're learning, or the way that you're going to achieve that vision is shifting as you go. And this is a key place that we drive people insane, insane. Like, yeah, we're awesome. And that drives people so nutty. Then that 6th thing is the way other people view us, is that they will describe catalysts as being really comfortable with ambiguity or comfortable taking risks, but a catalyst themselves may not experience that. They may not think what they're doing is risky because it seems so obvious to them, or they may not be comfortable with ambiguity. It's just like, well, I have to get through ambiguity to live the way that is my normal way of being. So it doesn't mean I like it. It's just, I do it.
Yeah.
We're often also articulating like the risk of not doing something, right? And so it's also this weird double negative, but we're like, I'm not comfortable with this risk, but I'm really not comfortable with the risk of not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I love that. And yes, to answer your question, I do classify myself as a catalyst. I spent some time reading your book, and then I'd go back. I'm like, wait a second. Wait, hold on. That applies to, I mean, even the burnout story, all of it makes sense. And I love, this whole podcast is about change leaders and people who are trying to activate change at scale. And some may be catalysts and some may not be. But I think why I'm excited about sharing this with everyone is that there are people who are in that spot where it makes others maybe uncomfortable, or they're not as excited to take on risk in the same way that we are comfortable doing. And that can create friction in the workplace too. You talk about this in your book, how, and I think Shannon, you might have mentioned this as well in your intro, the way that we come off if we don't understand ourselves and how we are impacting those through our own catalytic nature can really be a barrier to our own ability to innovate. Can you talk a little bit more about that and some of the lessons that you've learned along the way, either with yourselves or with the clients that you support?
It's so painful. It's like teach this class. That's like every time we have to sit there and talk about like, okay, people, now when you look back through your careers, can you pick times that you've did this? But before I will answer that question, I'm curious though, your audience is a lot of change management professionals. I'm wondering, do you see that there's a strong overlap between the Catalyst community and the change management professional community?
I think there can be. I don't know if I can say it's strong, and here's why. Historically, the change management practitioner has been in a support role. They've been supporting and enabling and facilitating a change decision that's already been made. But I'm seeing more of that shift, and I'm seeing more leaders in general understand the value of developing change management skills and recognize that correlation. And it's usually, there are people who have change management skills and leadership roles, and people that are not in leadership roles that don't have, obviously they don't have change management skills, but the point is that the change drivers, the change agents, it doesn't necessarily mean a change management practitioner is that person, but that's because of how the role has been historically structured. Yeah. I see that evolving. I see the change leader being a more strategic role and being brought into the decision-making. But it's only been recently. So hopefully that answers your question.
Amen. Totally. I think we have a shared vision there.
Yeah.
So going back to the question, because it can be incredibly painful to look back on, as I was saying, and I think it's important. So like Tracey focused on the kind of research data attributes of what it means to be a catalyst.
Yeah.
But there's also like this lived experience about what it means to be a catalyst. And so when we see that vision, I get goosebumps even just saying it out loud. When we see that vision, I should take a step back. We're often, almost always, in service of making things and the world around us better. Ourselves, our family, our work, the line at Starbucks, right? And so it's connected to sometimes it's connected to this deep personal passion, but regardless, like we can come to identify really profoundly with the vision of improvement that we're trying to change, create in the world.
Right.
It means that we can lose a separation from, if people aren't understanding this, it's that they're not understanding the idea. We can become synonymous. We let ourselves become synonymous with the vision. And other people who invite us in to create change, they're like, hey, go figure out how to do this thing. And you're like, I went and I tested a lot of things and I'm bringing back this idea. And as we bring back the idea, they can think that we're synonymous with it and we can get confused in that, right? And so when they start attacking the idea, it feels like
take it personally,
us. Totally. But even before that, if they don't understand the idea, and as Tracey was talking about, like how fast we can iterate, we can come, like it can be really murky. It feels like it's clear to us sometimes, like how can you not see it? But if you ask me to sit down and create a project plan on how to execute that thing, I would really struggle. And so this is where, like we can be perceived as being too loud, too fast, too arrogant, too sensitive. Like there's a lot of muchness in often in the experience of the catalyst. which is why, and we have a whole chapter in the book dedicated to it, being in conversations like these, being in community with other catalysts, like people break down in tears, or they'll like, I was listening to the book or reading the book on the treadmill and I broke down in tears because it just felt seen in a way that I had never been seen before. You know, it's still a life process. I had 2 check-ins with our employees today and they were both like, hey, more structure, more clarity, always helpful. Right? I mean, it's like,
you're like, what is that? Yeah.
You're a visual learner. We need more visual project plans. So it's like, and this is why, like, building it into how the company operates, building into how you operate as a catalyst. That's why we created the class. And we're stoked to have you. And when people come to the class, we've had people come back 2nd and 3rd times even.
Yeah.
We'll slide back into our default way of operating. Like Tracey said, this isn't a choice. Sometimes catalysts come to us and they're like, can I just choose to not be a catalyst? And we're like, the data says that's probably not likely. So let us help put some structures around to save everyone some pain and make you more successful.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. And really, because what you're talking about too, is that piece of self-awareness is so important. So we're aware of our own sensitivities and how we're going to react when people don't share the same vision. And then also it gives us an opportunity to think about how do we interact with others who don't share that same passion, vision, drive in the way that we do. Not that they don't have passion, vision, or drive, but it's a very different, you know, you've described it. It's the vision, it's the action, it's the combination of those things. You know, I think about like a time when I met with the CEO of a company I was supporting, super conservative, visionary, but not necessarily catalytic. And all the things I was putting out there without having the data to prove, it was a hypothesis driven. Hey, I think based on this, and it's clear to me, it was a hard shutdown. So it gives what you're doing through your book and through your class, I'm, you know, which I am excited to be a part of, is helping us figure out how to engage and interact in a way to be more effective without that burnout piece or burning of the bridges that could probably happen along the way too.
Totally. I'll just say one final thing, which is like when Tracey first showed me and I was sitting at that Starbucks on the street in Burlingame, I was like, oh my God, they don't all want change the same way that I do. Like just that basic, I was just like, because there does come a point where you're like, even if I had the data, which is important, and you have to meet people where they are and all of that stuff, they still might not want it. And I was like, that was such a revelation to me. And so one of the things that we talk about with Catalyst is as you improve your skills, you may get clarity on the change that you are gunning for is not the appetite that the organization has.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so you have 2 choices there, right? And so you can stay, but then we'll work on decreasing that personal connection of you and the change, like decoupling that a little bit so that it's a safe environment to stay in, or finding a place that's really excited about the type of change that you want to create in the world.
Yeah, that is, I mean, that really, I'm glad you brought that and reinforcing that, because that's a message I think catalysts need to hear, that the environment, the organization may not be ready for that change that you know could be successful. And that's hard. That's really hard to accept and move on from. So I love that you provide coaching on either side of the fence. Like, hey, here's how to think about this. Because that I would imagine too could contribute to some of the burnout that a catalyst could experience if they're constantly bumping into a wall, you know, maybe just metaphorically speaking. What else? What else from, you know, again, you asked earlier about the overlap between change management practitioners and catalysts. I see that overlap becoming more significant over the last couple of years. And I love that there's this innovation drive, and now you've got the skills from a change management perspective and bringing that together. What else should people who are catalysts, who are driving change and innovation in an organization be thinking about? Like, what is like a couple of takeaways? You know, and you've talked about several, so this episode's already full of great information for those who are listening. I know you've been enjoying it. But any other like tips, insights that we can put out into the universe so people who hear this are like, oh my gosh, they have that Shannon moment at the corner and they're like, this is me. I'm not alone. I'm not this crazy person who's got all these ideas that aren't happening because I can't figure out, you know, my own situation. So what do you think people should hear?
I would love to jump in here, and I'm gonna split this into 2 populations. The first being whether or not you're a catalyst, but you're part of the change leader community, you're part of the change management community. And this is Shannon and I's deep sense of purpose in the world. So take this with a grain of salt, but we are deep believers that catalysts are the bridge from the organizations that exist today to the organizations that need to exist in the future. And so if you are someone that is helping to move an organization somewhere because change has happened to you, or you are actively creating change yourselves, find your catalysts. Find them, understand that they may have some tendencies that aren't always helpful, but you really can help them see themselves. And they are like the wildfire that helps an organization really become flexible and able to shift in speeds that most organizations can't. So that's our first thing, that it's like, not just, are you a catalyst, but even if you're not, find them. Find them, ally with them, make them part of what you're bringing to your organization, because it's so, so helpful.
Yeah.
Anything to add on that side, Shan? Okay. The second thing, so specifically to the catalyst in your audience, it's really building on what Shannon was talking about, is that understanding the appetite within your organization. And so I'll kind of broaden from there, is that I think the most important skills as catalysts that we can cultivate are listening, and showing up with humility. And when we did research, because we were talking about the very early research we did, we've recently done a round of research with some of the most successful catalyst executives in the globe. And what we really see differentiates folks that are younger in their career as catalysts, and then those that make it to that C-level, is that they show up with such intense humility, which is a little bit counterintuitive, right? You think of someone that has this drive, they're seeing opportunities, they move into action. You kind of can imagine that old proverb of, the loudest voice is the one that will be heard and win. But what we see is that these folks are so skilled at listening and helping people that might be resistant really share their thoughts and be able to integrate that into their planning, so that these ideas have the opportunity to take root. Because the more we show up as that catalytic tendency of just like, no, I know we're wrong, can't you see it, the less likely we are to be invited.
Yeah, that
so that's
makes a lot of sense.
Biggest thing I'd share with the catalyst audience. You want to
The only thing that I would add there is, put your own oxygen mask on first.
Yeah.
So like the name of the book is Move Fast, Break Shit, Burn Out, because that's our default mode of existing in the world. The second part of the title is The Catalyst Guide to Working Well, because you can actually start to mitigate some of that. It's like, moving at speed, but at the speed of the organization, breaking stuff, but breaking the right stuff that's actually going to move you along. And we don't say that you can totally avoid burnout, but you can mitigate the frequency and intensity of it. And we remind people, like, a burnt out catalyst creates no change at all. So start to think about what can feel like selfish self-care, going to the spa, to like, oh, I'm not going to be able to realize my vision if I don't go to the gym or spend time with friends. Then it becomes like in service of the thing that we want to create in the world. So you all have permission. Spa days, time with friends, you'll be better change agents at the end. Shannon and Tracey said.
It's so true though. And I think that is the trade-off that unfortunately we often make, whether you're a catalyst or not, is you end up spending more hours working and trying to do the thing versus taking care of yourself, and your performance over time will suffer. And then you may hit the wall of burnout, which I have hit as well. So yeah, that is really wonderful feedback and advice. Thank you so much. So how can people, get involved with the work that you're doing, learn from you? Tell us a little bit more about the programs that you offer and ways to get in touch.
Yeah, we love working with organizations. Our passion is to help organizations identify, activate, and engage their catalysts. So if you're interested in doing that, please reach out to us. We have the Catalyst Leadership Trust that Tracey was referencing for executives. It's a safe space for Catalyst to come when you can't talk to your peers because the thing that you're about to say out loud is too scary for the org right now. To have that safe place of leaders who have those Jedi skills that Tracey was talking about is super impactful. And then we have the class, which is a great place to get catalysts from all over the world, from all different types of industries, verticals, company sizes. And what people universally say, the skill training is insane. We have all of the data, but what they say was the most impactful thing was spending time in community with catalysts like me who understand me. And that is its own insane form of rejuvenation for a catalyst.
Absolutely. The community and connection there. I love that.
Totally. So reach out to us on LinkedIn, check out our website, catalystconstellations.com. We'd love to be in conversation with the listeners.
I would love that too. Tracey, anything to add to that?
Doubling down on what Shannon said, like give yourself permission to understand that your energy is the only battery pack that's out there creating change. And so if we can flip the script on feeling like self-care is a luxury and really understand that you can monitor your energy the same way we monitor everything else. And so doing that is going to be the way that you sustain this and that you can show up every day and come back to that resistance, to the frustrations, to the managers that aren't ready to change around you. So
doing that important work.
Audience.
Yes. Yes. All right. Everyone who's listening, watching, you have permission to take a day off, to take care of yourself, to be the best catalyst that you can be, and to support your organization and innovating and changing in all the ways that everyone wants to change, or maybe they don't quite yet, but you're going to help them get there. So ladies, thank you so much for your time, for sharing your wisdom. I'll include all the links in the show notes, but this has been so much fun to talk to both of you. I've learned a lot, and just your energy and the light that you're bringing to organizations and individuals. Thank you for all that you're doing. And thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.